Hi, you guys. Will, JITPreparedness and info. Hey, I put out a video last Sunday, the 28th, and it was where the history of preppers. So what I did, I really didn't like the way it came out. The information was all there, but I just didn't like the way it came out. So what I've done is I've gone back and I've reproduced it, put in all the right information in the right way, and it's a way better video. So I call it the remake. The remake is on its way out. Take 13 minutes of your time and watch it. A lot better, understandable video. See you there in about 30 seconds. The history of prepping and adversity can and is traceable back to the earliest form of human times. Only one needs to look to the story of Noah and his ark for an example of preparing for a natural disaster. Following the great flood, both human nature and the history of prepping is full of examples of people who prepared in advance to overcome the future challenges. Humans have preserved food since the earliest days. Without our modern conveniences, people had to plan and prepare well in advance for trying times. For example, in the Middle Ages, people preserved their food in the summer so they could eat them in the winter because of the expense associated of the feeding the animals in the wintertime. The basic need for preparing for diversity continued for thousands of years. It continued because it was necessary for survival. Without preparing, most would have surely perished. Imagine a winter in the 1800s without pre-chopped wood or preserved food. The history of prepping is full of examples, and those who didn't think ahead or even prepare proved Darwin right. Even in our recent history, 1900 through 1970, preparing for adversity was accepted and encouraged practice. Through most of the 20th century, people and governments urged people to prepare for challenges and seek some form of self sustainability in many cases. This was motivating effort for countries, citizens to help support a national effort. Numerous countries involved in the wars encouraged their citizens to plant victory gardens. The promoting of victory gardens went hand in hand with the rationing of food. These campaigns for preparedness and self-reliance became patriotic endeavors that would help win the wars. In the United States, the effort to motivate the population into self-reliance was successful and resulted in the planting of 20 million victory gardens. In 1944, these victory gardens produced over 8 million tons of fruits and vegetables. Victory gardens accounted for 40% of all fresh fruit consumed in the United States and was equal to the commercial U.S. during World War II. Some feared the German aerial bombing was not far behind the U-boat attacks that targeted at the eastern coast of the United States. Therefore, another preparedness action by many was the construction of bomb shelters. Many of these bomb shelters still exist today. With the end of World War II, the world entered the nuclear age. Along with the atomic age came the fear of nuclear war between the world's superpowers. The result resulted in building of bomb shelters throughout the United States by individuals or local and federal governments. Perhaps one of the most famous and massive bomb shelters is the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia. The Greenbrier Project began in 1958 and was known as the Project Greek Island and had potential for 1,100, including the Congress. It stayed in operation until 1992 when it was outed by the media. It would probably still be part of the U.S. government survival plan. However, while the U.S. government may not plan on using the Greenbrier today, there are undoubtedly other Greenbriers standing by for a cataclysmic event. The government not only built shelters such as the Greenbrier, but also instituted the duck and cover drills. Ask anyone who grew up in those times. They will be able to recall watching public safety films such as Atomic Alert and conducting nuclear bomb drills. These drills follow guidance similar to what the Army Field Manual FM3-4 NBC protection provides. Nuclear attack indicators are unmistakable. The bright flash, enormous explosion, high winds, and mushroom-shaped cloud clearly indicate a nuclear attack. An enemy attack would normally come without warning. Initial actions must therefore be automatic and instinctive, dropping immediately and covering. Exposed skin provides protection against blast and thermal effects. These widely accepted Cold War preparedness measures continued well into the 70s. The next phase in the history of preparedness began in the mid 70s. It was in 1976 that Kurt Saxon coined the phrase survivalism. It was also during the mid 70s when Howard Ruff wrote his book, Famine and Survival in America. Ruff's book, based upon the turbulent financial times, helped lay foundations and concepts of today's modern prepper philosophy. At the same time, the start of the contemporary firearms movement began at the American Pistol Institute, which is now the Gunsight Academy, which was founded in 1976 by USMC Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper. Unfortunately, as of the 80s progressed into the 90s, the media and large portion of society began to label people who took preparedness actions negatively. The media wrongfully combined anyone and any group who practiced preparedness into one targeted group of wrongdoers. Rather than identify people and groups based on their merits, the press used blanket accusations in an attempt to paint all preparedness and the people as crazy, racist, and anti-government. It was a deceptive but effective tactic that drove many well-intended but concerned people who engaged in preparedness underground to prepare in secret. Fortunately, in the late 90s, as the specter of the Y2K approached and the media campaign against people who prepared began to soften, Y2K was the fear that a computer glitch would shut down and the beginning of a new century. The specter of Y2K resulted in mainstream media running stories of potential power grid failures and society shutdown. Fortunately, 2000 started without a hitch, and the prophecies of Y2K doom never materialized. What did materialize, though, was a rebranding of the survivalists, preparing for adversity, which resulted in an increased acceptance across society. With increased recognition of the word prepper replaced the word survivalism. As it did, survivalists became preppers. That acceptance, while not complete, continued to increase and does so today. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, ushered in a new age of ongoing worry and concern with preparing for adversity. That level of fear and anxiety is possibly the greatest in the history of preppers. As time passes, the flames of worry and concern continue to be fanned across the society by the never-ending 24-hour news cycle. It is this media-driven news cycle which sensationalizes such tragedies as the swine flu, avian influenza, Ebola, increased crime, repeated terrorist attacks, financial upheaval, etc., with nonstop, round-the-clock coverage. Because of the fear of the sensationalized news stories, many of these people are becoming concerned for their future safety and security and are preparing for adversity. As a result, the prepper ranks continue to swell as it has no other time in modern history of prepping. The explosion of the internet further augments this increasing population of preppers, with more and more prepper related websites, blogs, and podcasts becoming accessible. The availability of information allows for beginner prepper to become proficient and prepared within a short period. It is also demystifies preparedness further, increasing society's acceptance further the number of people willing to identify themselves as preppers. The willingness for people to identify as preppers is creating a widening definition of what it means to prepare. Some preppers consider a few days of food and a family emergency plan to be an adequate amount of preparedness. Others, however, desire to have fallback location in the event they have to evacuate their family. Regardless of the desired amount of preparedness, there is one constant. That constant is that always any readiness is better than no preparation. So never forget, you're just one step away.